FX4's tail went rigid the moment he spotted the human on monitor 12. The security chief of Waypoint Station leaned forward in his chair, both hands gripping the console as his chitinous plating glowed a steady blue. His two eyes tracked the small human female as she wandered through the station promenade, her wild auburn curls bouncing with each step. She clutched a data pad to her chest, lab coat flapping behind her, completely oblivious to the lethal danger she was walking toward. "No," Thixer whispered, watching her trajectory. "No, no, no." The human Laurel something Jr., xenobiologist, been on station 3 weeks, was heading straight for vendor stall 47, the illegal one, the one he'd been building a case against for 2 months. The one currently displaying a scar cub in a containment field that was definitely not up to code. His seams flashed yellow as Laurel stopped directly in front of the stall. Thixer's finger hovered over the emergency response button. Protocol said he should lock down the section immediately, evacuate the promenade, call for a containment team. Scar were apex predators from the Corvash sector, banned on every civilized station in the galaxy. The adults could tear through whole plating with their bare claws. Cubs were somehow worse because people underestimated them right up until they lost an arm on screen. Laurel pressed her face close to the containment field. By the 7 moons, Thixer breathed, his tail thrashing once against the floor. He was already moving, leaving his chair spinning as he bolted for the door. His long legs carried him down the corridor in ground-eating strides, his chitinous plating clicking with each step. Station personnel flattened themselves against walls as he passed, his seams now burning bright orange. The promenade was crowded with the afternoon market rush. Thea shouldered through a cluster of Motherarian traders, his eyes locked on the small human standing at stall 47. She was talking to the vendor, gesturing enthusiastically with both hands. Her data pad dangled from one wrist by its strap. The scar cub sat inside the failing containment field, its crimson scales gleaming under the stalls. Lights, black stripes ran down its spine. Small horn nubs protruded from its skull. Its golden eyes with their distinctive slit pupils tracked every movement in the crowd, calculating, hunting. Even at 3 t tall, it radiated menace. Its spiked tail swished slowly behind it, and the small wing buds on its back twitched occasionally. Fexfer was still 20 ft away when Laurel reached toward the containment field. "Controls, stop," he shouted, his voice carrying across the promenade. Every head turned except Laurel's. She was too busy deactivating the containment field. With the vendor's permission, the scaly merchant clearly willing to let a human become lunch if it meant making a sale. The field shimmered and died. Thexer's seams blazed red. Laurel knelt down to the cub's level, extending one small hand. "Hey there, sweetie," she cooed. "Aren't you just the most handsome boy?" The scar cub tilted its head, horn nubs catching the light. Its retractable fangs were currently hidden, but Thixer knew they were there. Those fangs could punch through Kevlar. The cub's tail swished faster, a sign Thixer recognized from the security briefings. It was preparing to strike. "Please step away from the predator," Thixavor said, his voice strained as he finally reached the stall. His hands were raised, both eyes fixed on the cub, slowly, no sudden movements. Laurel glanced over her shoulder, still Kneeling, oh hey, your security. Chief, right, I submitted a request last week to access the xenobiology database. She smiled brightly. This little guy is fascinating. Did you know Scarix cubs have a completely different social structure than the adults? I know they have 17 different ways to kill you, Theaxer said. His tail was pressed flat against the floor, every muscle in his body coiled. Step away, he's not dangerous, Laurel said, turning back to the cub. He's just scared, look at his posture. Classic juvenile anxiety response. That was not anxiety, that was hunting behavior. Theo had seen enough security footage of Scar's attacks to recognize the stance. The cub lunged forward and clamped its jaws around Laurel's sleeve. The entire promenade went silent. The vendor's eyes widened. Theo's seams flashed so bright they cast red shadows across nearby stalls. His hand went to his weapon, but he couldn't fire. Not with the humans so close. Laurel didn't pull away, she just sat there, still kneeling, looking down at the cub hanging from her lab coat sleeve. Oh, you're testing the material, she said conversationally. That's actually a documented behavior. In pack predators, they explore new textures with their mouths. That is not exploring. Thixfor managed, his voice pitched higher than normal. That is biting. Same thing really. Laurel slowly raised her other hand and gently scratched behind the cub's horn nubs. Scarix cub made a sound like metal grinding against metal. Thexfer nearly drew his weapon. Anyway, he's purring, Laurel exclaimed, her face lighting up. Oh, you're just a sweetheart, aren't you? Yes, you are. The cub released her sleeve and butted its head against her palm, still making that horrible grinding noise. Its spiked tail had stopped swishing and was now wagging slowly back and forth. The scales along its neck shimmered, becoming more iridescent. This is impossible, Theo said flatly. His seams had faded to yellow, confusion replacing panic. Scarix cubs do not purr for prey. Species. Well, this one is. Laurel pulled out her data pad with her free hand, still scratching the cub with the other. I need to document this. Could you take a photo? I am not taking a photo. I am confiscating an illegal predator and arresting this vendor, for he turned to stall 47. The vendor was gone, fled into the crowd, while Theaxer was distracted. A string of curses in 3 languages ran through his head, but his translator mercifully didn't vocalize them. Laurel had both hands on the cub now, running them down its scaled back. Creature had climbed halfway into her lap, still purring. His scales are incredible. Feel how smooth they are. I will not be feeling the predator. He's not a predator, he's a baby. Laurel looked up at Theo with earnest eyes. And he's clearly been neglected. Look how thin he is. I bet that vendor wasn't feeding him properly. The cub looked perfectly healthy to Theo, muscular, well proportioned, capable of mauling someone. Station protocol requires immediate containment of all Class A restricted species. You can't put him in containment. He's probably traumatized. Laurel stood up, cradling the cub in her arms like it was some kind of domesticated pet. The Scar weighed at least 40 pounds, but she held it easily, supporting its body with both arms. The cub's spiked tail draped over her forearm. He needs proper socialization and a stable environment. He needs a reinforced containment cell with triple redundant force fields. That's inhumane. Fexer's tail twitched. He is not human. Neither are you applying humane standards correctly. You know what I mean. Laurel shifted the cub's weight and it nuzzled against her. Shoulders still purring. I'm qualified to care for him. I have xenobiology training. 3 months of training. I read your file. 3 months and 2 weeks, Laurel corrected. And I wrote my thesis on predator socialization patterns. On Earth predators, Fexfer said his seems glowing orange again. Earth predators are not galaxy-class apex threats. Predators are predators. The basic behavioral principles are the same. She scratched under the cub's chin. It extended its neck, exposing its throat, which was either a sign of complete trust or a strategic position for a counterattack. Thier wasn't sure which. Besides, look at him. Does he look dangerous? The scar cub chose that moment to yawn, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth and 4 retractable fangs that could extend an additional 2 in. Fexer's eyes tracked each one, automatically calculating bite force and penetration depth. Yes, he said, he looks extremely dangerous. He's yawning. That means he's comfortable. Laurel beamed. See, we're bonding. You are being evaluated as a future meal. That's ridiculous. If he wanted to hurt me, he would have done it already. She adjusted her grip, cradling the cup more securely. I'm taking him back to my lab. He needs a proper examination, nutritional assessment, and a safe space to decompress from the stress of being trafficked. You are not taking a restricted predator to your laboratory. I have a Class B xenobiology clearance. SCAR require Class A clearance, armed supervision and approval from the station commander. Laurel frowned. That seems like excessive bureaucracy. That seems like not dying. You're being dramatic. She turned and started walking toward the exit, the cub still nestled in her arms. Its golden eyes stared at Thixvor over her shoulder, slit pupils contracting in the bright promenade lights. Fexer stood frozen for 3 full seconds, his mind trying to process what was happening. Then his training kicked in and he hurried after her, his long strides quickly catching up. You cannot simply walk away with illegal fauna. I'm not walking away. I'm relocating him to a better care facility. Laurel navigated through the crowd with surprising confidence for someone carrying a lethal predator. My lab has everything he needs. Your lab has specimen containers and research equipment exactly perfect for monitoring his health. They reached the corridor leading away from the promenade. Fexer moved in front of her, blocking the path with his tall frame. His seams glowed bright orange and his tail spread across the floor for maximum intimidation. I cannot allow you to keep that creature. Laurel stopped, hugging the cub closer. The scar made a low rumbling sound, either contentment or a warning growl. Fexer couldn't tell what's going to happen to him if you take him. He will be held in quarantine until we can arrange transportation back to his home world. And how long will that take? Thixer's seams flickered. 6 to 8 months in a cage, in a secure containment facility designed for his species, alone with appropriate automated care systems. Laurel's expression shifted to something Thixvor recognized from his cultural training modules: human determination mixed with emotional appeal. He's a baby. He needs social interaction and enrichment. Scarix are pack animals, isolating him could cause permanent psychological damage. Scarix are solitary hunters who only form packs during mating season. Thea corrected, the adults are the juveniles. Have completely different social needs. She adjusted her grip on the cub again. It had started gnawing on a button of her lab coat. I can provide better care than an automated system. Let me keep him for a few days while you process the paperwork. I'll document everything. It'll be valuable research. Data? Absolutely not. 1 day, then 26 hours. I'll bring him to the security office tomorrow morning. She looked up at Thixer with wide eyes. Please. What's the worst that could happen? Thixer's mind immediately supplied 17 scenarios, all ending with significant bloodshed and property damage. His seams cycled from orange to yellow to blue and back to orange as he tried to formulate a response that was both professional and sufficiently conveyed the magnitude of her terrible idea. The cub stopped chewing on her button and looked at the vor. Then it made that grinding metal purr again and nuzzled against Laurel's neck. This is against every protocol, Thixer said finally. Is that a yes? That is a statement of fact before I make a terrible decision. He pointed one long finger at her. 26 hours. You will check in every 4 hours. Any sign of aggression, and I am personally coming to retrieve him, and you are signing approximately 40 liability waivers. Laurel's face split into a huge grin. Thank you. You won't regret this. I already regret this. Thixer seems pulsed red for just a moment. What are you naming it? Rex. Laurel said immediately, like she'd already decided. His name is Rex. The newly named Rex chose that moment to extend his fangs fully and yawn again, displaying his impressive dental array. Then he sneezed, a small puff of smoke emerging from his nostrils that smelled faintly of sulfur. He breathes fire, Thixer said weakly. Only when he's older. The juveniles just have the glands. It's adorable. Nothing about this is adorable. But Laurel was already walking away, cooing at the predator cub in her arms, her lab coat flapping behind her as she headed toward the research wing. Rex's spiked tail swayed contentedly, and his scales shimmered with iridescent colors under the corridor lights. Thixer stood alone in the hallway, his seams slowly fading from orange to yellow to a deeply uncertain blue. His tail dragged on the floor behind him as he pulled out his communing what would certainly become the worst incident report of his career. 26 hours. What could possibly go wrong in 26 hours? Thever's seams had been glowing orange. For 3 hours straight, he sat in his security office watching monitor 17 with the focus of a predator tracking prey. The screen showed Laurel's lab where she'd set up what she called a comfortable habitat for Rex. It consisted of a pile of blankets in the corner, several specimen containers, repurposed as toys, and a food bowl filled with what Thea sincerely hoped was appropriate nutrition. Rex was currently shredding one of the blankets with enthusiastic claws. This is fine, Thea muttered to himself. Everything is fine, nothing is on fire yet, his commune chirped. Laurel's voice came through, cheerful and completely unconcerned. 4-hour check-in. Rex is doing great. We're bonding. Define bonding. He follows me everywhere. Watch. On the monitor, Laurel walked across the lab. Rex immediately abandoned the blanket and trotted after her, his spiked tail wagging. When she stopped at a workstation, he sat down and looked up at her. Expectantly, golden eyes tracking her. Every movement. That is stalking. Behavior, Theer said into the calm. That's puppy behavior, he thinks I'm. His mom, you are not his mother, you are. A different species from a different planet, tell that to him, Laurel. Reached down and scratched behind Rex's horn nubs, the grinding metal purr echoed through the calm, see perfect. Angel. Fexer's tail twitched, angels do not have retractable fangs, have you met? Angels, maybe they do, she laughed. Relax, Chief, everything's under control, I'm running some baseline health scans now, the comm clicked off. Before Theeks 4 could respond, on screen, Laurel was positioning Rex under a medical scanner, coaxing him to stay still with gentle words and scratches. The cub cooperated, lying down and resting his head on his front legs. His scales shimmered as the scanner passed over him. Impossible. Vixvor whispered, Scar cubs do not cooperate, they destroy, they rampage. They definitely do not lie still for medical scans. But Rex was doing exactly that, making his horrible purring sound while Laurel hummed some earth tune and studied the scanner readouts. 8 hours into Laurel's custody, Theexavor watched her feed Rax what appeared to be raw protein synthesized from the station's food processors. The cub ate delicately from her hand, careful not to catch her fingers with his fangs. Between bites he would pause and press his head against her palm, purring. This defies all documented Scarix behavior, Thexer said to the empty office. His seams had faded to yellow. Still concerned, but less immediately panicked. 12 hours in, Laurel took Rex to the hydroponics garden. Theer nearly activated the emergency lock-on when he saw them on the monitors. The garden was off limits to predatory fauna. The delicate alien vegetation could be irreparably damaged. Misting systems could malfunction. The glass walkways between tiered plant beds could shatter under predator claws. He grabbed his equipment and ran. When he burst through the garden entrance, his seams blazing orange, he found Laurel sitting cross-legged on a glass walkway with Rax curled in her lap. The soft green and blue grow lights cast peaceful shadows across them. Mist drifted lazily through the air. Around them, exotic plants from 12 worlds swayed gently in the artificial breeze. Nothing was destroyed, nothing was even disturbed. What are you doing? Thexford demanded. Slightly out of breath, Laurel looked up, smiling. Enrichment time. Scarix cubs need exposure to diverse environments for proper cognitive development. She gestured to the plants. This has so many new smells and textures, it's great stimulation. Rex opened one golden eye to look at. Theexer made a small chirping sound, then went back to sleep. He just chirped, Theexer said. He does that when he's happy. Laurel ran her hand down Rex's scaled back. Sometimes he also does this little trill thing. I'm documenting all his vocalizations. Theer's tail dragged across the glass walkway as he approached slowly. His eyes tracked every inch of the cub, looking for signs of aggression, plotting anything that matched the security briefings. Scar, do not chirp. This one does. She looked down at Rex with such genuine affection that Theexavor's seams flickered uncertainly between yellow and blue. I think he's been socialized differently. Because he was taken so young, he's adapting his behavior to bond with available pack members. That's me. You are not a pack member, you are prey. I'm whatever he thinks I am. Laurel scratched under Rex's chin. He stretched, extending all four legs in. His tail then curled back up tighter. Perception shapes behavior in juvenile predators. If he perceives me as family, he'll act accordingly. That is not how apex predators work. It's exactly how they work. She pulled out her data pad with her free hand. Scrolling through data, I've been analyzing his behavioral patterns. Every response matches pack bonding behavior. From earthwolves, century hound cats, and Drexian shadow stalkers, the specific manifestation is different, but the underlying psychology is identical. Thexer sat down on the walkway, his long legs folding beneath him. His seams had settled into a confused blue. You are saying you have domesticated a Scarx in 12 hours. I'm saying he's domesticated himself. Laurel looked up. From her data pad, Scarx cubs are taken from their parents too young in the illegal trade. They imprint on whoever provides care during their critical socialization window. Usually that's other traffickers who either abuse them or keep them isolated, which is why they develop aggressive behaviors. And you provided different care. I provided appropriate care, social interaction, consistent feeding, environmental enrichment, positive reinforcement. She smiled down at Rex. He's not a monster. He's just a baby who needed someone to treat him like one. On her lap, Rex made a small, contented sound, and his scales shimmered with iridescent colors that reflected the grow lights. Thever's mind was cycling through every protocol he'd ever learned, trying to find one that covered this situation. His training said Scar were irredeemable killing machines. The evidence in front of him said this particular Scarx was currently napping in a human's lap while surrounded by delicate vegetation he hadn't even tried to destroy. This will cause problems, he finally said. What kind of problems? The diplomatic kind, the bureaucratic kind. The how do we explain this to the Galactic Council kind? His tail twitched. Scarx are banned species. We cannot simply keep one because it purrs. Laurel's expression shifted to determination. Then we change the regulations. If I can prove that proper early socialization prevents aggressive development, that changes everything. Rex can be the case study. You want to use him as research. I want to use our bond as proof that the current approach to Scar is wrong. She hugged the sleeping cub gently. They're not inherently dangerous. They're products of trauma and abuse. Given proper care, they could be. Rex woke up suddenly, his head snapping toward a section of tiered plants. His pupils dilated to full black and his body tensed. A low growl rumbled from his chest. Thexer's hand went to his weapon. What is he? Something small and furry darted out from between the plant beds. A Mthurian tunnel rat, one of the station's persistent pest problems. It scurried across the glass walkway, heading for the exit. Rex's hunting instincts activated instantly. He launched from Laurel's lap, his powerful legs propelling him forward with terrifying speed. His fangs extended fully, his claws scraped against glass. Rex! No, Laurel shouted. The cub skidded to a stop mid-leap, all four legs swaying. Awkwardly, he landed in an undignified heap, looked back at Laurel with confused golden eyes, then sat down and tilted his head. The tunnel rat escaped into a ventilation grate. Good boy, Laurel said, standing up and walking over to him. Thank you for listening. Rex chirped and pressed his head against her legs, purring again. Thea's seams had gone through orange, red, yellow, and back to blue in the span of 5 seconds. He stopped mid-hunt because you told him to. Positive reinforcement training. We've been working on impulse control. Laurel knelt down and hugged Rex. He's a very good student. That is not possible. And yet she grinned up at Thexver. Still think he's a monster. Thever stared at the scene before him. A tiny human hugging an apex predator who was purring like defective machinery and wagging his spiked tail with enough force to knock over a nearby empty container. His seams settled into a steady, resigned blue. I think he said slowly that I am going to have the strangest incident report in station history. Make it a research proposal instead. Laurel suggested document everything. Submit it to the Xenobiology Council. If they see the data, they will think I have lost my mind, or they'll revolutionize how we handle orphaned predator cubs across the galaxy. She stood up, Rax immediately pressing against her legs. 26 hours aren't up yet. Give us more time. Let me prove this works. Thexer's tail traced patterns on the glass walkway as he considered. Every regulation said no. Every instinct said this was dangerous. Every piece of training said remove the predator immediately. But Rex was sitting at Laurel's feet, looking between the two of them with curious golden eyes, his scales shimmering in the grow lights. He made a small questioning trill, then sneezed. Another puff of sulfur-scented smoke. 1 week, Thexer heard himself say. Supervised, monitor with daily check-ins and behavioral assessments. Laurel's face lit up. Really, really. And if he bites anyone, breathes fire at station property, or demonstrates any aggressive behavior toward crew, he won't, I promise. She picked up Rex, who immediately nuzzled against her shoulder. Thank you, Chief, you're doing the right thing. I am doing the inadvisable thing. Theer stood, his seams glowing an uncertain yellow-blue. But perhaps that is the same as the right thing with humans. Welcome to humanity, Laurel said. Cheerfully, we specialize in inadvisable choices that somehow work out. Rex purred his grinding metal agreement. And Thexver's seams finally settled into a warm, accepting